Okay, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا Muhammad. Okay, we will continue inshallah with the text which is work or work in the past. So the writer says here, he gives like some kinds of work أنواع العمل that we need to be sure of. خلصنا lamplighters وقلنا a familiar phenomenon to all but a few developing countries اللي هي ايش؟ lamplighters. وحكينا كمان شوي عن lift operation. الآن ننتقل ل another work which is a switchboard operations. نشوف شو هذا ال switchboard operations. فبقول لي today our phones are primarily connected through satellite connections and tower signals. In the late 800s through even the 1980s, a switchboard operator was required to switch various switches in order for calls to be connected. Making a simple phone call took time and patience, and they weren't always foolproof. نحكي عن هاي الوظيفة اللي هي switchboard operations. كمان وظيفة معينة or a kind of work that is to be used in the past. Since they were friendly and precise, the operation. Okay, so switchboard operations. هذا another kind of work. نوع جديد من العمل اللي هو switchboard operations. Today, I will start reading إن شاء الله. اللي هي paragraph, the last paragraph in the first column. Today, our phones are primarily connected through satellite connections and tower signals. إذا نحكي عن الفونز أو اللي هو التليفون الموبايل فون تمام بقول لك they are related together من خلال satellite connections and tower signals. يعني هاي الشبكات اللي نشوفها nowadays it is different from what we have in the past. He says in the late 1800s through even the 1980s a switchboard operator was required to switch various switches in order for calls to be connected. The telephone was different. استخدام التليفون كان in a way different from what we have nowadays. Making a simple phone call took time and patience, and they weren't always foolproof. مش دائما كانت تزبط هاي الكول if you want to call someone. But now استخدام الموبايل phone, the smartphones, the case is different. Women were the primarily operators. So who would like to do the job here is primarily the women. Yes. Let's move to call stalkers. هذا call stalking was a dangerous and challenging job. نيجي للcall stalkers. Call stalkers اللي هم الفحم هذول they put coal into the fire in order to make fire or to make مثلا a shed moving or so on. فهاي الفحم او هم اللي بيشتغلوا بالفحم او اللي بيدخلوا الفحم على to make fire. Okay. So coal stalking was a dangerous and challenging job. It's very dangerous high job. These workers were usually men of all ages that worked in the boiler rooms on large ships. Then men working here, not women, but men. Many people will remember the men in the Titanic who worked around the clock to stoke the coal to keep the ship in motion. Today, ships are run very differently from how they used to be. While some may still use coal, many have sophisticated and environmentally friendly engines that keep them going. فهاي كمان الوظيفة هاي تغيرت. إنه ما ضل استخدام للفحم هون. Coal stalkers have vanished. Nowadays we don't have this job. فبقول لك هنا he puts an example اللي هو الموفي, a very famous movie which was called Titanic. بهذا الموفي we saw like workers, and those workers, what do? They are what? They are coal stokers. They put coal in order to make what? To make the ship moving. Okay? بقول لك today ships are run very differently. Nowadays ships are run very differently. They do not run as they were in the last centuries, the last century and the century before. While some may still use coal, many have sophisticated and environmentally friendly engines that keep them going. And this job, command, we are going to what? To another job, which is radio actors. Before television existed, people had to use their imaginations by listening to radio actors. And هذول actors of radio shows would be played out over the radio while the whole family huddled around the speakers to listen in. Skits would be played by comedians and a few voice actors, producing shows that were typically light-hearted in nature and used to entertain during the Great Depression. إذن هاي الراديو باختصار radio actors اللي هم people that people who work as voice over أو voice actors يشتغلوا بالصوت وبنقلوا الصوت من خلال skits. So he says skits would be played by comedians and a few voice actors, producing shows that were typically light-hearted in nature and used to entertain during the Great Depression. لأن الpicture مش موجودة هون ولكن just the voice is important. In the middle of the paragraph, while radio shows still exist, they are no longer the same elaborate shows that were popular in the 1800s and early 1900s. أكيد اختلفت الراديو او الشوز تبعون الراديو من 1800 لل 1900. It's different now. When TV came into existence and grew in popularity, although never phasing out completely, radio acting eventually became less popular. الآن الراديو, we don't usually listen to radio because we have television, we have phones, we have other materials to be used. اختلفت الأدوات اللي بيستخدموها الناس. Holding on to its residual charm and still furnishing the freedom of imagination of not seeing pictures, many people still enjoy listening to radio narrations of novels and soap operas. صحيح إنه اختلفت هاي ولكن we can see some people they listen to radio nowadays. The last work that is written here, which is food safety testers. With the advance of science and strict enforceable legal systems, food is strictly tested and monitored in the modern world. لأن هذول اللي بيختبروا الفود سموهم food safety testers. But in the past there weren't the same testing regulations, and innocent testers had to taste the food before it was given out to make sure the food didn't contain poison. هم بهمهم إنه الفود يكون safe for people, especially هذول important people, the politicians, the kings, those people they care about themselves. لذلك عندهم كانوا وظفوا ناس يسموهم food safety testers. بيقول لك ايش? It was given out to make sure the food didn't contain poison or anything dangerous. أكيد. فعندي testers هذول. They make sure that the food is not dangerous. This was especially true for politicians, kings, and other important people. This changed dramatically with the introduction of mandated food safety standards and nowhere in the modern world would anyone dream of employing anyone to do such a task. لما هذول بتذوقوا الطعام، تخيل طعام وهذا الطعام بيكون فيه ايش؟ بيكون فيه شبهة انه يكون مسموم. it is very dangerous كمان. it's inhumane، مش اشي انساني انه انه اخلي واحد اعمله زي فائر تجارب وقد يجرب الطعام if the food is safe or not. Though it may no longer exist in its original form, there are plenty of jobs as professional food taste testers, which is still a bit different from risking your life for a wealthy citizen. تخيل هنا آخر جملة شو بيقول is still a bit different from risking your life for a wealthy citizen. تخيل أنت كأنك بتقدم حياتك لمين؟ لشخص to a rich person, a wealthy citizen. Wealthy means rich. For the words, just like monitored. Monitored means to stare. أو إنك what؟ بمعنى تراقب الشخص هذا. Monitored. Okay? And thank you for listening.